Okay, I swear to God I have.
Good afternoon, evening, keepers of the cash. Gary B, the casual comic guy here, and it is great to see all of you here tonight. Let me start by introducing my co-host. First, over to my whatever that direction that's going to be. We have Matt Woods.
Hey, Gary, how you doing?
I'm doing good, sir. Thank you for joining us tonight. And directly below me, we have Stephanie herself. How you doing, Steph?
I'm good. Happy after Memorial Day, everybody.
Thank you, thank you. And the man of the hour, Mr. Chuck Hensey. Good evening, sir. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing very well. Super excited to have you on. Super excited to have these two co-hosts. And before we get going, as I like to do, Chuck, give the quick 2-minute pitch on who you are, and then we'll get to the chat and say hello to everybody.
Well, sure. Well, I'm Chuck Hensey, and I'm a sort of a irregular over at Reggie's channel. So I seem to have made it to the level of rotating pundit with them. And I love comics, and I love the fact that I have found a community in the Gibbon Gang and others that love comics and want to talk about comics and can appreciate all the wonderful nerdy things that I like. And so I do have my own channel, Terrific Comics and Pop Culture, which has a total of 5 videos up there right now, I think. So we're starting it up, and it's just it's so great to meet people and to be able to share this with them. So.
Well, thanks. Yeah, and that's one of the reasons I like doing the show. I'm always meeting new people. My guests get to meet new people, or in this case, I invite them on because they already know you, and we all get to have a great time together. And besides,
Gary, you can't say that. You know we're only here because Rob wasn't able to make it this week.
Actually, no. Rob was coming in until like the last half hour. He was sick.
Because
Rob is a better Rob.
Actually,
Yeah,
he heard Matt Woods was
guy.
on, and Rob's like, "Sorry, I can't hang with that dude." Jackson Roykirk, maybe. Matt Woods, no.
I see how it is, Rob.
And on that note, though, a quick well wishes out for Rob, who's a little under the weather tonight. Feel better quickly, sir. I hope you're back to normal quick soon, buddy.
Now I feel bad for my jokes here.
Yeah.
Get better, Rob.
And we're gonna get to the chat here, and we'll say hi to everyone in the chat. So joining us, Stephanie, would you like to say who's first? You know who it is.
Las Cruces, my nemesis, who I always try to beat. Las
I always have to
Cruces.
throw it to you because every time you say his name, you get dramatic. You go, Las Cruces.
Las Cruces. One day I'm gonna beat you, and I'm gonna say, good morning. I'm gonna be like, suck it, Las Cruces. Like I'm gonna beat you.
In your way. Hope Collector Kevin, how you doing, sir? Joe, how you doing? Tina, good evening, Tina. Nice to see you.
Tina.
Jean Malo, good evening, Jean. Mark Andrews, how you doing, Mark? Nice to see you, buddy. Brad, welcome in, sir. And as we're going down,
See Bizzles in the chat.
he is. Hold on, we have DVH. Good evening, DVH. Rob, thanks for joining us for the live, buddy. And we're getting down there, Matt. Psychedelic Comics. Good evening, sir. Nice to see you.
This is an all-star chat right now.
Yeah.
Right.
You're only saying that because Roy Kirk's not in there yet.
Oh,
my
he
game
gets in it. I'm ready for him.
Right? And going down, C. Bizzle, how you doing tonight, sir? Nice to see you, buddy. And we are caught up for the moment with the chat. And before we get going, though, Chuck, how was the process for you when you had to pick out your 12 books? Everyone always likes to hear from the guest if it was easy or if they had a real struggle with it.
Man, so I got it down to like 100 books when you got with me. And
Oh,
I made a list, and I made another list, and I made another list, I made another list. And at some point, my teenagers start their head in, they're like, Dad, what are you doing? And they said, you got to pick something. So we got down a little bit, and it changed, and we got down a little bit, and finally my daughter, the love of my life, one of my love of my life, my daughter just looked at me and said, Dad, pick something. And so I'm under orders from the curly haired monster to pick something. So here we are.
Nice.
So it's not easy, is what you're trying to say, right?
No, it was not easy at all. No.
Sounds like you were picking under duress.
Well, sometimes we need some encouragement, right, Stephanie?
Yes.
Well, let's start out with your first one then. We'll get right to it for the crowd.
All right. So my introduction to comics was through the Electric Company, like so many other people. We had the holy trinity of TV, which was Sesame Street, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, and the Electric Company.
With
And Mom was
Silence
running
Spring.
late for dinner. We get this really weird show with a curly-haired guy in a long scarf who couldn't speak proper English. But that's for a different show.
Dr. Who.
So my introduction to comics was through the Electric Company and through other people too. That's right, Mark. It's not. And then when I was 6, there was this little sci-fi flick that came out called Star Wars. That if I wasn't already doomed as a pop culture geek, that pretty much cemented it right there. And so my first book is a mashup of the two of those loves. And it is Spidey Super Stories 31, if I can get it in focus here, I think. There we go. With a Star Wars homage.
Cool.
I have that one. It's a great cover, isn't it?
This is an awesome cover. Now, it's designed for, clueless 6-year-olds who are hopped up on chocolate-covered sugar bombs and who don't understand a coherent story for the life of them. Once you get over that, it's a fantastic book. And this cover is everything you need as a kid. It has Dr. Doom, it has Spider-Man, it has a lightsaber, and the rest of it's paint by numbers at that point.
Yeah, Moondragon.
And Moondragon, yes, who I had seen before. So I actually sort of knew who she was. And then you got the back cover here.
Oh, that's dope.
And I would have hated to have been the editor to figure out who you were going to have stand in for all the Star Wars characters. Because, Moondragon, you could figure out pretty easily. What were you going to do for Chewbacca? So they opted for Paul the Gorilla from the Electric Company, And then you got Marvel Boy, who, I think the only reason they knew him was was the Fantastic Four and brought him back and killed him. And then you got Sam from the Muppets, from Sesame Street, Sam the Robot, who was on there for half a minute, and with good reason.
Well, he looks like the MSK 3000 bot.
Yeah, and probably just as useful too, as a matter of fact. So, so this is my number one choice here. So
that's a great one. It's like you said, Chuck, because my favorite issue is the one with Spider-Woman, which is 32. And they're simple reads. The science and the logic in them is completely nonsensical. So you read it, and you read it with a childhood's joy, and you just take it for what it is. And there's a certain magic to it.
Exactly. And then you don't try to figure out when you actually read the real Captain Marvel series why Thanos ever needed a helicopter.
Right?
You try not to ask that question. So
oh yeah, it's funny. I mean, those are the stories, right, where they'd pick up a whole building, float it into the sky, set it back down, all the plumbing works again, everything's fine.
That's right. Right. The cat is able to beat intergalactic villains. I mean, it's just it's tremendous. So
nice. You got DVH saying tremendous cover.
Yeah.
Tony, how you doing tonight, sir? All right, great start.
Okay.
Spidey Super Stories have a soft spot in my heart, also from the Electric Company.
Yeah.
But I have to ask you, as a kid watching it, were you ever upset that Spider-Man didn't speak?
No, that didn't bother me so much. What bothered me is he wasn't on every episode. So
right.
You had to sit there and sit through all these stupid skits with, the Jungle Girl and all this other stuff. And I want Spider-Man. I don't want to see this guy, narrating records with, big, the big headpiece on, the fake sunglasses. I want to see Spider-Man.
Right. Same here.
Chuck hit it right on the head. Chuck hit it right on the head because you did have to wait the entire episode to find out he wasn't there. But you know what did bother me? I couldn't stand that he wouldn't talk. That absolutely bothered me. But number one, even as a little kid, whenever they would throw the net out over top of people, I'm like, just throw the net off. Like, I couldn't understand why the bad guys couldn't get out from underneath this net. Okay. So it was 1970s. You know, we loved it.
They had $10 for the special effects. So, what could you do?
So,
They used that
Stephanie,
net.
what we're saying is this is a 10-year-old nerd guy problems.
I half expect you to have a net booby trap on your property, Matt. I can see you putting one up tomorrow.
Wait, who said that?
Goats in line.
That's right.
There's like 6 goats in a net right now outside. He's going to have to get you after the show.
Tina,
I have a net out there and I have a springboard board with spikes on it, to come after them.
And Tina, I love easy readers.
Coming in.
Tina, I love easy readers. No mounds I couldn't stand. So,
Jerry the Jitterbug, how you doing, sir? In
That is
case you guys
perfect
don't know,
timing.
Jerry's an awesome part of our community. One of my all-time favorite people.
Yeah.
All right,
Great
number 2, sir.
So at the same time that all this is going on, there's a Saturday morning show on called Shazam and ISIS,
Oh, I love
which, was not the best show in the world,
No,
but it got me
ISIS.
introduced to the Marvel family. And I love the Marvel family. I don't love them as much as Dave Bratton does because nobody loves the Marvels as much as Dave Bratton.
True story.
I do love them enough to go track down, especially a lot of the early Fawcett appearances. So Jerry showed up just at the right time. So my number 2 book is a book I bought raw originally off of eBay and got Slab to take care of it. And it is Mary Marvel's Comics number 2.
Ooh, what a great cover.
Bringing out the golden age, Chuck.
Yeah.
Holy smoke.
I love my old stuff now. So,
Mary Marvel, my favorite Marvel.
and this
I
cover,
need to cool down.
this
That's some
cover
hot
is
stuff,
just wonderful. I mean, it encapsulates everything you want to see. You've got her, you've got the Word, you've got her flying there. I mean, you just couldn't ask for anything else. So
And she had a fun depiction in the movies, too, I thought.
she did. I thought they did a good job with her in both the first and the second movie. So
Jerry saying wonderful.
the date on that is 1946. Dr. Von Hoop.
That is awesome.
And
that is almost as old as Matt Woods looks.
Thanks, Gary. Appreciate you, buddy. And I only
Making sure you're awake over there, buddy. All right, number 3, Chuck. Before Matt does any damage to me.
So like a lot of other people, I sort of took a hiatus from comic collecting for a while, for at least what seemed like a while when I was a little kid. It probably really wasn't that long, but and I went to the
older than Joe.
Wow, I know it's older than Joe. That's scary. So
Remember the 60s, Matt?
If you remember the 60s, you weren't there, Stephanie. Come on, you know better.
I don't have any. I don't think I have any 60s books with me. It's just that. So when I went to the newsstand at 12 to get, just happened to peruse by it to see what was out there, and there were 3 books that really jumped off at me. And one was Secret Wars number 7, which confused the daylights out of me. So they were talking about the Spider Woman that didn't look like anything like Spider Woman I knew.
Right.
There was the Amazing Spider-Man, second appearance of the Puma, and Spider-Man was in a black costume, which confused me because he wasn't in that in 7, and I was 12, and I could only hold about 3 thoughts in my head at one time, and that maxed 2 of them out right there. And then here's the 3rd book that just sold me on going back to comics.
Oh yeah, Cloak and Dagger, so good.
Cloak and Dagger, number 1 of a 4-issue miniseries. Now, I had no idea who these people were. None whatsoever. This cover here by Leonardi, right? Just completely blew me away.
Oh, it's beautiful. And Stephanie, you should definitely cosplay as Dagger.
Dagger?
Yep,
Yeah.
That's the woman in white.
Right there.
Well, I got white stuff. I don't know that I have a white unitard.
Well, and it does say in the story that she was a dancer at one point, but
Oh, okay.
there are a couple of splash pages in here. Like right here.
Nice.
That, you know, just thumbing through the book in the newsstand. I mean, just I had to get it. I had to read about them, and then the story is fantastic. And
Dark
next
story too.
it is. It's a very, very dark story, and all of a sudden, I was completely hooked on these characters to the point that I will buy anything, including a very horrible recent run of Secret Avengers, with them in it.
But what
And
a beautiful Jenny Frison cover with them on it.
Oh God, that'd be wonderful. Yes.
That cover,
that
did
was-
you see that cover? It was beautiful.
No, I didn't. Oh my gosh. I bet that'd
I'll
be
send you a
amazing.
picture of it.
Okay, great. Yeah, so this is one of the books that brought me back into comics. So, and you know, it's Bill Mantelow's story. You know, you can't. It's amazing getting older and finally looking at all the writing credits. How much stuff he wrote that just absolutely knocked my socks off.
All of Rom.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
And so much.
Yeah.
He could have had so much more if he wasn't in that accident.
oh, I know. Well, huge runs. He had a huge run of Marvel Team Up also, which was just amazing. I mean, you just wow, you know, just incredibly talented. We've now lost Gary, so
Gary is down.
uh-oh.
You know, I have to make a
He's got a
comment.
finger.
Yeah.
But Mark Andrews in the chat down there, he says Cloak and Dagger were great new characters. Mark, they're 40 years old, man. They're not new characters anymore. Superman was a great new character.
And Chuck, did you ever read the Cloak and Dagger graphic novel too?
Yes, I did. Yes.
I
Yes.
have that one. It's so good. And the art, fantastic. They
It
had
was.
some of the best art in those old Cloak and Daggers.
You know, that first regular series there, they went like 11 or 12 issues, just had tremendous art. You know, it crossed over nicely with things. And, you know, there's just those are characters that when you get a writer who gets them, it really is magical. So
It is. But that's the thing with them. You do need the right writer. And
Yeah.
at least back in the day, I don't think there's anything I've ever read by Bill Mantlo that I didn't love. That guy was just a fantastic writer.
Yes, exactly.
Also,
Exactly.
the creator of Rocket Raccoon.
Well, nobody's perfect. But the funny thing is, thanks to the movies, I love Rocket Raccoon now. But you know,
that Hulk issue was not a good read. I had it. I read it. I sold it not long ago.
no, that Hulk issue was not.
I was like, you know, I don't need this. I had it in a 9.4. I let it go for a good price.
It's good. That's good. So,
All right,
Lost
number
Matt
4,
now.
sir.
well, Matt will come back. It's probably just the three chipmunks on his internet got tired, and you know
Right?
they'll kick back in soon enough. So,
I think
All
Joe
right.
insulted him and he left.
well,
His
that's he'll be
comment.
back. So, the fourth book is from my father's collection of stuff,
Ooh.
actually. So I never knew he was a fan of like comics and stuff, but I knew he liked comic strips because growing up, he had all of the trade paperbacks for Peanuts
Oh.
from the first one in the 1950s up until the year I was born. And, you know, and then we started, as I got older, I got to go through more of his library. So over here, I've got all of his Pogo collections. Not that I understand Pogo, but he apparently loved Pogo. He had Charles Addams cartoons collected. And then when I got a little bit older, he allowed me to play with his Mad magazines.
Oh, those I love those as a kid, man. I have such fond memories of reading those.
So I hope Steve White is on because Steve is our one of our local Mad experts. This is Mad number 60. And this is in this needs some love. Like I would take it out, but the cover would probably, if it's not detached, it's pretty close to it. Because a 12-year-old was allowed to play with it and not take that good of a care of it. Now, one of the neat things about this cover is you see this side here where you have Mad congratulating Richard Nixon upon his election of president in 1960. if you flip it over to the other side, Matt congratulates John Kennedy upon his election as president, because it was published, they didn't know who was going to win. And that race was actually close enough that, you know, they legitimately didn't know who was going to win. And so, yes, Gene. And Gene, this book is the first appearance of Spy versus Spy also.
Oh, really? That's pretty iconic.
And, you know, which has a special meaning in our family because I have twins. And one year for Halloween, we had gotten them a collection of Spy versus Spy cartoons, and they actually dressed up as Spy versus Spy. We were able to get the face and the neck endings and the hats, and they went out in Halloween as Spy versus Spy. And it was a huge hit. Well, Bar, we hope it didn't stay that way. And so that was just, so Spy versus Spy has a special meaning for us because the family just loves it. And that was the best Halloween ever, especially since it came out. We did that the year of Frozen. And so there were 80 billion Elsas.
Oh, geez.
And there were these two little spies running around. And I can tell you who got more candy out of it. It was not the 80 billion Elsas.
Right.
And you're screaming,
Spy
let it
versus
go at the top
Spy
of their lungs.
is so classic. Like, I just remember laughing at almost every single one of them I would read back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
And every issue I was looking for what mainstream thing they were going to parody and make fun of that month, you know?
Well, you know, and it's fun because, you know, Dad had a bunch, all the ones Dad had were all magazine size. So he didn't have any of the actual comic Mads, but he had some of the collections. And so I would read them as a kid and read about, you know, Super Duper Man and the Howdy Dood It stuff. And I didn't get any of the references until I got older. And it was like, oh, this stuff's brilliant. Why didn't I get this when I was younger? Well, it's because, you know, I didn't know any of it. But
that's the brilliance too, though. You get to grow into even more material as you age up, right?
Exactly. You know, the Super Duper Man versus Shazoom was funny. You're making fun of superhero stuff, and then you know about, you know, the Superman Shazam lawsuit, and then it's even funnier. You know.
And then you always had the what? Me worry?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So,
and everybody was ruining those back covers too because it was always a fold cover. So you're always folding, probably except for that issue, right?
That was the best part of the whole magazine.
What, the fold cover?
Yeah.
I used to fold every one. I wanted to see the picture.
Exactly.
My brother had him, and that's all I wanted to do was just keep folding up the back to see what the new picture was.
Right? It was fun.
Yeah.
I don't know. There was so much fun about Mad magazines. They were just, I don't know, they were spectacular. I loved them.
Yeah, and and the Mad TV show was not half bad either. You know,
I love the Mad
comedy
TV
show.
Look what I can do.
Well, you know, the animated Spy versus Spies were actually a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So
I wish that show went longer. I used to stay up just to watch it.
My brother and I used to read Crack Magazine and Mad Magazine. And I mean, we would, you know, wear them out and trade them back and forth. But
I loved Crack. Oh my goodness.
My brother was a decent artist, and he would try to do those types of drawings where you could fold it and there would be something. And he never was a professional. We have a professional, you know, right down below.
Exactly.
But he was still talented. He made some pretty good fold sheets or whatever you call those.
Now, Stephanie, did you ever draw any of those yourself, the fold-ins?
No, I never tried. Never thought about it.
Yeah.
Well, you got a new endeavor in front of you.
You see?
I have lots of endeavors.
Right.
Right. All right. Number 5, Chuck.
All right. So my LCS in town for a long time had this book on the wall, and I wasn't really interested in it because it didn't look that good. And in the 90s, it was a pricey $50, which, you know, in 1993 with a college student, that was a lot of money.
Right.
And but I signed up for a new miniseries coming out of Dark Horse called Grendel Warchild, which I didn't know much about, but the guy kind of looked like Darth Vader and he had a lightning sword, and I figured it couldn't be that bad. And it turned out to be actually magnificent. So when I came home from college and I worked part-time at the comic store to get credit for stuff, well, this was one of the first books I got off the wall. And it's Primer 2,
Oh,
the first appearance of Grendel.
that's one that you and Rob don't see all the time, Gary. That's a cool book.
I've actually never seen this one.
It
So
is,
I'm really looking at it right now.
it is an awesome book. The story itself is really rough in that kind of early 80s, independent, black and white, stuff. But you can see the genesis for what made the character of Grendel so great later on. And you can really, as you look at that, and then you look at Mage later on and whatnot, you can really see Matt Wagner getting better as an artist, and really developing as a storyteller. Now, Hunter Rose is just really cool. He's a really neat character, and I like what they've done. They've done a couple of team ups with him with Batman. I think it was in the late 90s, early 2000s, that were a lot of fun. And they've done a lot of sort of fill-in stories to fill in his background, because, they killed him off pretty quickly, and they went on to Christine Spar and then the other Grendels along with it. So
Also, it was a title that was kind of passed along from one person to another.
exactly. Supposedly it's a cursed title, and everyone who takes the title of Grendel, while they get on this mission and everything, it winds up being cursed, and they're generally doomed to destruction and death and whatnot. And so there's just it's a really interesting legacy story that just keeps going on. And there was some great miniseries in the 90s by Dark Horse when they had the title, when they had the license.
That is a great concept. It would make it hard for anyone to develop, though, because they wouldn't want to keep switching the stars.
Well, Netflix actually had that under development. It was one of the things that got canceled, and they were just going to focus on Hunter Rose. So, but unfortunately it got canceled. So, yeah.
So Hunter Rose was your favorite Grendel?
Actually, I like the second one, Christine Spar, a lot more. I thought she had a lot more nuance to her character. And if you see those books, it's very much out of the mid 80s. I mean, she's got that look, that very much the 80s look with the short haircut and the very angular body type and everything. And it looks like she's off of a rock and roll magazine or something. So.
Well, it's like the whole Pat Benatar thing, huh?
Yes, very much so. Very much so.
She had that teenage angst look to her. Yes.
Well, great book so far. I got to say, Chuck, this is spectacular. Number 6, buddy.
All right. So,
Mark Anderson's agreeing with you. Christine Spar was his favorite as well.
You see, I always knew the man had good taste, so it's good to know that. So back in the old days on eBay, when you could actually troll, yes, her nemesis was a badass, exactly. Back when you could troll the eBay listings and go through all of them in one night without going to sleep, you used to always go looking there for just oddball stuff that I had never seen before. And so one night in the 90s, I stumbled across this series from the 70s, which I'd never seen, and nobody I knew had seen it. And so this is a series called Fast Willie Jackson.
I have never heard of this.
So Fast Willie Jackson was an Archie-like spinoff in the 70s, but set sort of in the Good Times neighborhood, shall we say. So it was all African-American, mostly African-American minority cast. It only ran for 7 issues before Archie sued them out of existence. But these are extremely hard to find. They're wild in terms of sort of a spotlight on that era, so to speak. And they were actually apparently in development. Who was it? People who did Fat Albert. What was the company that produced Fat Albert? Filmation. Filmation was actually talking with the creators of Fast Willie Jackson about turning it into an animated show before they got sued out of existence. So
it's weird though, because it's not the same IP. It's weird that they would get sued.
Well, I think they claimed that it looked just similar enough, and you look on the back here, we've actually got all the characters. And just in case you weren't sure what decade this was.
Right. Well, that's one of the great things about comics. Even like the 60s and 70s Marvels, you crack those open, you know exactly when it was made.
Yeah,
Here you go,
do.
madam. Right here for you. What do you think of those pants?
Yeah, some nice
I
little bell
think I'm
bottoms.
wearing those pants right now.
You see, you came all dressed and ready to go right
I
there. So,
have a 70s outfit on today.
oh my goodness. So, and I have no idea why Jane Fonda's on here because I don't remember her ever appearing in any of these stories, but there's Miss Jane Fonda right there. So,
Wow.
They may have had plans that never came to fruition with the lawsuit.
I'm sure they did, but it's just it you can find these online. They're generally in beat up condition. But they're super fun and sort of crazy to read. So yeah, they're just really neat. So, and I do have the entire run, but it took me
Exactly, DVH.
forever to find it. Yes, exactly. I agree with you. Now, Fast Willie has actually shown up one more time in comics. Eric Larson pulled him in for, hey, Doug. Eric Larson pulled him in actually in Savage Dragon, in a couple of issues of Savage Dragon.
Nice.
Oh, wow.
As sort of this obscure relation to the dragon. And in that, Fast Willie and Dee Dee, there she is right there, apparently were married and were middle-aged. And so that's just sort of an interesting sort of tangent there. So at least Eric Larson knows who they are.
Well, I was gonna say that's the cool part, right? When you see these creators put in these obscure characters that they like, that you liked, and it's kind of connects you to them quite a bit.
Yeah. So
And just know that you're like not alone. And yes, first appearance of Barbarella. I still watch Barbarella to this day. A terrible movie that is 100% joy to watch. Like you can't watch that movie and not smile through the whole thing.
no. And you can't turn your eyes away from it. Once you get started on it, you just can't.
You're done.
You can't walk away. So.
Oh, you guys have seen a completely different movie than me. I
like
started
Barbarella.
Barbarella a half a dozen times in my life, and I can't get past the first half hour. It was like 3 years ago because I hear all about this movie. It was in COVID. Well, lo and behold, Barbarella's on TV, and I'm like, son of a gun, I'm going to watch the whole thing.
Well, that's because she's naked for the first half hour.
That's like 2 hours of my life I will never get back. I mean, that movie is horrible.
It's so much fun.
But Matt, it crosses over. It makes that circular pass on the back of the circle, but from being so horrible it's unwatchable to so horrible you can't not watch it.
Right.
Well,
Now, Chuck,
I gotta give you that point, okay?
If you guys notice, he didn't get past the nudity in the beginning, so I think Matt was just wearing himself out.
You know, I'll be honest with you. I think I saw it on TBS. I didn't even know there was nudity in the movie. So, now I'm gonna have to
If it was on TV, it was edited for sure.
Oh, I can imagine. Yes.
No, it's camp done right. And Matt, that's where the group Duran Duran got their name.
Yes.
Is it really?
Yeah, Dr. Duran Duran.
Yes.
Yeah, I got that was a character. But no, that is
Flash Gordon too, though. It's one of my favorites.
Not Flash. No, he said Flash, not Flash. Let's.
Oh, did he?
Yes, he did. No.
I've never seen that. Yeah, Flash Gordon's one of my favorites.
Yes.
Yeah, Don did not write Flash Gordon.
Number 7, Chuck.
Here we go. Okay.
We went on a Barbarella tangent. Sorry,
guys.
I can guarantee you that was not on anybody's list right there. So, so I like certain artists. I have some favorite artists, just like everybody else. And I was fortunate enough to get a book that had 2 of them present in it. And I think doing the only Marvel work they ever did, but I'm not entirely positive about that. Plus, it ties in my love of cartoons. So I managed to hit all 3 with this one shot, which is a neat trick. And this is the Hanna-Barbera TV Stars, number 3, which in and of itself is a neat book. You know, it's different. Yeah. But this guy was drawn by Alex Toth.
Oh,
from Marvel.
Flash Gordon.
And I love Alex Toth. And then inside the book you have Dave Stevens' artwork.
Wow. Talk about all-stars, huh?
So so I mean, you can't go wrong with this. And just from a childish perspective, it's got Dynamite and Space Ghost. I mean,
Now,
come on.
I think I have the first issue of that, and it has the Herculoids and stuff on it.
Yeah, I think it does. Yes.
Yep.
That's not the first Space Ghost, is it?
No. That's a gold key book, which I've got down the basement somewhere. So
We do have a Space Ghost fan out here, so it's in his logo.
see, I knew you'd bring out people with such refined taste to your channel, so that's good.
Birdman. I just bought this season of Birdman on Vudu. I was watching it.
Oh my.
Exactly, Tina. He's
Birdman.
got a couple I already want to hunt.
Yeah.
says Space Ghost automatic win.
You see?
Yep.
There we go.
Classic cartoons.
Ah.
So yeah, you got Birdman, Mitor, so many good ones.
That great Hanna-Barbera TV superhero series from Gold Key is just wonderful because it collects all of those characters in there. So that's a fun run to collect. So
And this is just what he picked out of the 100 he had set aside, guys. Wait till we have him back for another episode. And what's that? That's my favorite thing to collect with cartoon comics.
amen, Warlord.
Chuck, if you will, you know what makes that? Hold that book up again. You know what makes that book really cool is people of Chuck and Gary's elderly age. Whenever they were growing up, they reminisce about Hanna-Barbera, and you couldn't have lived in a childhood and not seen all the Hanna-Barbera cartoons. So that is like a super dope book to be showing, especially for people of an advanced age like Chuck and Gary.
Fine. What you're looking for is refined, Matt, as opposed to crude like you. So,
Chuck, I wouldn't have had him on the show if he didn't pay me so well.
it's all right. So, I teach high school. I used to have a heckle. It's all right.
All right, number 8, Chuck.
So
We'll let the young one settle down over there.
So my favorite
Gary just rage unsubbed me. Thanks, Gary.
So my favorite writer of all time, or one of my favorites, is John Ostrander. And in my mind, there are very few bad John Ostrander books out there. And I loved his collaboration with Tom Mandrake, whatever series it is. And so here we have the Spectre 54.
Oh,
Now, this series is the series that convinced my then fiance, now wife, that collecting comics was a good idea. Because she looked at me kind of funny when we met. I said, well, I collect comics. She said, it's nice. You got 5. I said, no, I've got like 10 long boxes. And
what's a long box?
no, she's an archive, so she could figure out what a long box was pretty quick. She went, oh. I said, well, how about you read some of them? So, and so this series is what really sucked her in, especially the first 30 issues, which I would put up against almost 30 issues of any other title out there. Just love the stuff. This particular book has the first appearance of the new Mr. Terrific.
Oh.
And as you can see from the name of my channel, I like Mr. Terrific. Now, one of the first GLA comics I got, he died in, but I didn't hold that against him. I just figured he got confused by the coloring of his costume. So, but this one brings in Michael Holt, who DC has really treated really well, and has this beautiful painted cover on it, which is just amazing. And so that's why this is one of my favorites here.
And the Spectre just has such a cool design.
Oh, and you can do so much with them. That 70 series in Adventure Comics is just amazing. What they got away with in terms of the gore and everything else was just incredible. So, and each issue of the Spectre, they had a different person doing covers. So I think Alex Ross's first DC cover was Spectre number 20, I think.
Oh.
And if I remember correctly, I think Superman's on it too. So,
yeah, I know his first comic cover was the Terminator Burning Earth cover.
Mm-hmm. I think he did the interiors for that series too, actually. So
Very nice. Now, I
It
did
is
not see
cool.
the Spectre coming. So far, you've surprised me with every book, which I love.
Yeah, they're all unique, Chuck. That's I really am enjoying it. And guys, by the way, in the chat, I'm just joking with Chuck and Gary. We're all the same age, and that's where the joke, the inside joke, is coming from. So I am not calling them elderly or refined. They're young.
Well, Matt, if they don't know that we all bust each other's balls by now, they're already lost.
I was going to say. You know it's bad when Stephanie can't get in a word edgewise, so you know.
What I like so far, even though we got a few books left, is your tastes have variety, Chuck. There's a plethora of stuff that you like, right? You're not just, oh, I just like this and that's it. You have a big palette of likes.
I love comics, and I love learning about comics. And I mean, that to me, that's the fun of collecting is, you know, every decade or every couple of years, I discover something else that I've never heard of, you know, and that's what makes it fun, you know. So it's nice to have a couple of big books, but yeah.
I think what you have so far that you've shown is really unique and interesting books that, just you wouldn't think that, you know, you're gonna be showing off or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's cool.
But I like the oddities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, number 9, sir.
All right. So I like the Spectre. I love magical characters, especially DC magical characters. They are some of my favorites. And so one of them is Dr. Fate.
Oh.
And
another great costume design.
So I have here a Dr. Fate #1. I don't generally go for alternate covers, but I made an exception here. Let me see if I can. There we go.
That is a good exception.
It is.
And this cover just blew me out of the water when I saw it. You know, with him sitting on the helmet against the black. Just a wonderful image there. This is the new Dr. Fate. I assume he's the current Doctor one. I'm not sure. He certainly was the one in Young Justice. And Khalid is his name. And so it's really interesting having a young Muslim under the helmet. Provides, I think, a very different point of view on the character than what we've had beforehand. So, and, you know, that's him up there sitting on the helmet, trying to figure out what to do now that he's got all the power. And it was a good series too. It was
right, now the weight's on him, right? He's got the power now. What do you do with it?
Exactly.
How do you use it properly?
And that's the fun thing about these stories is, you know, what do you do when all of a sudden you're the next Sorcerer Supreme or, you know, Lord of Order in this case, you know, how do you handle all that responsibility being dropped on your shoulders? So
it does.
Yeah.
Almost like
I don't even think about that, Doug. Yeah.
Now, what did you think of his portrayal in the Black Adam movie?
I thought they did a great job, actually. And, you know, they sort of hinted at the helmet going to the young lady's brother.
Yeah.
I think
and
was kind of hinted.
I'm a big Pierce Brosnan fan from the Scarecrow and Mrs. King's days when I used to watch that as a kid with my mom.
I used to watch that too. That was great.
Huh?
I used to watch that too. That was great.
Yep. That was the show I watched with my mom every week religiously. And I always wanted him to be James Bond. So when he became James Bond, I was like, yes.
And he was a good Bond too.
He was.
He was good. He had the problem with Bond that Peter Capaldi had as Doctor Who, which they were great characters for the series, but the writing wasn't always up to snuff.
But I love the one with him and Michelle Yeoh.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I think Tomorrow Never Dies, right? Well, I mean, because Michelle Yeoh is just such a great actress, and she could pull off all the action and.
Yeah, I'll watch anything.
I just thought Pierce Brosnan was a great, you know, James Bond.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I agree.
Steel.
Yeah.
That's what I meant. Well, I said the Scarecrow and Mrs. King. I said the wrong show.
That's Bruce Boxleiter there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I was confused. I'll be honest with you, Gary. I was like, that's Remington Steele, but I was like, maybe
they were running at the same time.
I used to watch both of them with my mom, so there was like a.
Mm-hmm.
Pierce
fun
Brosnan is
shows.
great, but then like I think he had a photo of him at the beach, and then they're like, "Oh, you can't be James Bond anymore," right? And then like
Yeah.
that was the end of his James Bond career.
Well, he
Of
also
course.
talked about
You
the
know,
fact
he's sucking
that he
in
was.
constantly.
Yeah, and he also complained about the fact he was getting, as Roger Moore once said, you know, he was getting older and the women were getting younger, and you know, I think Brosnan made a similar comment that, you know, he felt like, you know, the women opposite him were now the age of his children, and he was like, you know, I don't know if that's right. So,
Right. You know, yeah, the Broccoli's had a formula for their Bond for sure.
and it worked well too.
Oh yeah.
I love James Bond. That's
I
Chuck, who's
I
your
can't-
favorite James Bond?
I can't believe I
That's
said Scarecrow Mrs. King. That was Bruce Boxleitner.
yeah.
Was it?
My favorite James Bond, Matt. I've got to go Roger Moore, who I saw first. But
Yes.
but my favorite James Bond movie is From Russia with Love.
Oh, Timothy Dalton?
I
No,
did
no,
like
no.
Roger
No,
Moore
no.
too because I grew up with him.
Sean
Yeah.
Connery.
That's Sean Connery. Yeah.
But
I gotta go
nice,
Daniel
Roger
Craig. Come
Moore.
on. Daniel Craig.
Who's yours, Stephanie?
Daniel Craig. Come on.
Well, she just likes his abs. Don't let her fool you.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Daniel Craig did crush it though.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
He brought a realism to Bond, which was nice, a grittiness that the character needed at the time.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
Yeah.
number 10, sir.
All right. So I live in North Carolina, and up in the western part of North Carolina, there is we actually have a reservation up there, the Cherokee Reservation. And these are Cherokee who were not forced out on the Trail of Tears. And up near there is a university called Western Carolina, and they hold a training seminar or opportunity for teachers to come up and take special classes every once in a while. And so I got to go up there a couple of years ago, about 10 years ago now, or 15, however old the kids were back then. It all blurs together at some point. You know, and I went up there for a session about the Cherokee. And while I was up there, I mentioned to our leader who was from the Cherokee Nation, I said, you know, I like comics. He said, well, if that's the case and you want to read some stories about the Cherokee, I've got a pair of books I would recommend to you. And so my number 10 is something called Tales of the Cherokee from Mandalay Press.
Oh, cool cover too.
Now, there were only 2 issues of it done. And as long as this doesn't count as my other one, here's what the number 2 looks like.
You've seen this show. We cheat all the time.
That's good. 'Cause I'm a history teacher, so I can't count. So, you know, for decades and centuries. But this has wonderful interior art, and again, it's black and white, but just some beautiful art as they're telling some of the stories about the Cherokee Nation and Cherokee culture and whatnot. And I absolutely loved getting it. And, it's really cool. There's another nice splash page here of it. So,
Cool.
you know, there's no real value to these books, but they're so much fun to read. And the back cover here is a wraparound cover.
Now, does it credit the cover artist, Chuck?
Let me see, and I
Beautiful
can tell
painted
you.
Cover.
I don't see one credited here.
I was just curious.
Yeah, I'm looking to see right now. He cites all the people who inspired him. It may have been Gene Gonzalez may have been the person who did the cover, so he's credited with most of it. So,
Oh, nice.
and the editor was J.C. Vaughn. So, yeah. And Gene Gonzalez is up there in Johnston, Tennessee, which is just up there near the Cherokee Nation. So,
Nice. That's a cool book.
so
You've definitely hit me with a few I've never seen before, which I like.
well, good.
That's a good one. Hey, I
Well-
agree with Mark Andrews' comment down there. No economic value, but lots other more important value. You know, those Cherokee Nation books, I've never even heard of them, let alone seen them. So great job, Chuck.
I didn't remember them coming out, and he happened to have these extra copies and was like, "Here, I'll give them to you." And so, like, sure, and they're great reads. So
Why turn that down?
yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
Cool.
that was
Number 11 with a extended personal story attached.
okay. So so in Raleigh in the 80s, we didn't have a lot of comic shops. Funny thing. We had one, and for a while, then more opened up, including the one I shop at right now. And the guy who opened up the first store, today, if he was still operating the store, he would probably have GPA sold listings up when he priced hot books. Because if you went there and a book was supposedly hot, he would have it jacked up at least 5, 6, 7, 8 times the going price,
Wow.
Oh, geez.
claiming that it was so-called fair market value. And you only had to get burned once or twice on that to learn not to go there.
Did he stay in business long?
Yeah, he did actually. He stayed because he had a wild collection of stuff, and if he didn't know the book was hot, it just sort of sat out there in his back issue bins. So in the mid 90s, I would go there occasionally, look for obscure stuff like, Lois Lane books, because I was trying to collect all the appearances of Rose and Thorn because I'm one of those people. And, the mod Wonder Womans and stuff that didn't have a whole lot of value, but that he would randomly stock. And I happened to go down to his black and white selection one day just to check out some of his black and white books. And a brand new movie had just opened up. And it starred Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones. It was called Men in Black. And I didn't know, of course, again, this is pre-super internet, all of us, being constantly connected on our phones. I didn't realize it came out of a comic series. And so I went down there and I was flipping through all of his black and white books. And I found this, which is the first appearance of Men in Black. I actually found the entire series there.
I didn't even know that existed.
Cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
There were actually 2 series by Eric Hill Comics. And this is radically different than the movie. Very, very, very different than the movie. And so I was flipping down through there, and he had them all priced at $2.50 each. And this is while the movie was going crazy. So as you can imagine, I took them out, stuffed them in between a couple of Grimjacks, because there's no better way to hide things than a couple of Grimjacks and a couple of Wonder Womans.
Yeah, put them with some other cheap books.
That's right. Very casually sauntered up there. Talked a little bit of college football with him. Bless the poor man. He was an LSU grad, so he loved LSU football. You can't do much. And just kept him talking and hoped that he wouldn't notice that this said Men in Black. And he rang me up. I thanked him. I walked out of there, went straight to my car, made sure the cops weren't following me all the way home because I had made a steal. And this book's in fantastic shape. I've read it once and put it back. There's actually a trade paperback of these floating around somewhere, but I've never seen it. So, and of course, and these read all the cons for like the longest time, and then people have forgotten they exist.
Yeah.
And it looks like it was a very serious book, unlike the comedy of the movies.
It is very serious. It's very high on the conspiracy theories and the wild ideas, and it's a very, very dark series. So yeah,
that cover is dark. It's nice though.
Yeah, and the other books have dark cover, have very serious covers also, as did the second series. So the comedy of the movie is vastly different than the book. So.
You have Joe asking what year that book came out.
92, I think.
See, I didn't even know those were based on a comic IP.
I know.
Joe, give me a minute and I can tell you what year it was. I don't remember. So let's see.
Joe has Google too, Chuck.
Yeah, I know that, but I might type faster than him.
Joe wasn't quite as good at using it though. So
1990.
1990.
I believe. Yeah,
Yeah,
1990.
Doug Bratton saying, excellent book, Chuck.
Well, thank you, Doug. Another man with refined taste. That's great.
I know.
I'm
I know. We're
all the
going
right
to have to
things.
get Doug on the 1011 at some point, too.
Indeed. So that's my special story there. This is how to get the guy who likes to cheat everyone, which is good. Holy cats!
Holy smoke!
Careful how you handle that book, Chuck.
I wish
Wow.
this was a
Yeah,
96.
you-
I wish
Did you
this
wear
was a 96.
gloves? Did you wear gloves when you read it that first time?
Wait, you got that for $250? That book looks to be in pretty good shape, Chuck.
It is.
What would you estimate the grade would be? You don't want to know, do you?
Okay, so depending on if you get a real grade or if you get the random guy CGC pulls off the street, I'd probably say somewhere between a 9 to a 9.4.
Wow.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, I've taken good care of it. So.
Matt Woods will give you $5 for it right now.
Hey, my wife would be thrilled. I'd double my money. So,
Right. All right, so we're to your last book now. Your spec pick. Let's see what you got.
So I have more of a genre than a specific pick. And as we've been talking about the cartoons, and Matt and a couple other people have alluded to it here, as old guys are excited about all the Hanna-Barbera books and whatnot, the guys a little bit younger than us are excited about Transformers and G.I. Joe and all those other things. So I've been kind of thinking, so what's the next generation going to get excited about? What books are they going to be thrilled about? And so my spec, and not this specific one per se, but our series like Justice League Unlimited, which is based off of the Justice League TV series from the 2000s.
Right.
Now, this particular one has Harley Quinn on it, so it's extra special and everything. But it's not just Justice League Unlimited. It's also Pinky and the Brain.
Oh, yeah. Like that and the Animaniacs and stuff like that.
Speak of the devil right here. Animaniac. Your Powerpuff Girls, your Samurai Jacks. And a lot of these books right now. Don't tell me like that, Gene. Come on now. But those books right now, first of all, they're a lot harder to find than any of us would ever imagine. Like I'm trying to finish up a run of Powerpuff Girls right now, and I'm one book short on that Justice League Unlimited series. And man, you can't find them for love nor money. And when you do find them, I mean, those Powerpuff Girls ran for 70 issues. Those post-issue,
really?
It did, yeah. And I, of course, stupid me, stopped collecting it at 45 for some reason. I've found a 70, but you get past that, and they're $20, $25 on eBay, each one of them.
Wow.
And I didn't even know that they had I knew they had a comic series. I had no idea it ran that long. That's a good run.
It's a great run. And they also did one of the movie. If you remember, they had a movie that came out. So exactly. Samurai Jack is hard to find. Yes. And I mean, God, yeah, but those are the books I'm looking at right now. If you want to talk about a spec pick, that's where nobody's looking. A Teen Titans Go #1 just recently sold for over $400 in a 9.8.
Wow.
That's not even that old of a book.
And that Justice League cartoon is a good cartoon and well loved by a lot of people.
Exactly. But nobody bought those books. It's not like Batman Adventures where people were buying Batman Adventures all the time, and everything else. And
Jackson Roykirk missed trolling us live.
What?
I was like, keep going, Chuck.
Man, I hate getting trolled in the Cajun Louisiana accent. That's depressing. So, but to me, those, if you're thinking about spec, that's a great area to look at, because in 20 or 30 years, those kids are going to be looking nostalgically at that. Like a lot of us are looking at G.I. Joe and are looking at Transformers.
Well, look, the first Scooby-Doo is like a couple grand.
Oh my God. So true story on first Scooby-Doo. I saw one at a local con here about 8 years ago, and it was probably a 6 or a 7, and he wanted $1,000 for it. And I laughed at the guys
right now.
That's right. And I laughed at his face. I said, "You're out of your mind." He said, "Just you wait. It's going to be worth a lot more."
He was right.
Well, I didn't have $1,000 time to spend on
I
anything.
think the
so-
one in my comic shop right now at Rhinos, I think it's at 2,200, and it's
Good
like a
God.
7.0, 7.5.
Wow. Now I love my. I've got a bunch of Gold Key Scooby Doo books downstairs, but yeah, that's sort of that's on the long term prayer list. Maybe when kids get out of college.
No, that's great spec too, because these old cartoon series, they fly under the radar as far as
Yes.
collecting goes, and then you don't know till you know.
And the stores don't have them. I mean, you can't just walk into an LCS and find Powerpuff Girls.
No.
I mean,
Well,
you
even
know,
the Scooby Doo ongoing, which is still being published by DC, and it's
Yeah.
way high number. It's not like they're high publication.
no.
They're low print runs. Your comic shop may get 2, 3.
Mm-hmm.
If you're lucky, they'll get that many in.
Now that Scooby Doo team up book that came out starting in 2016, that's sorry to veer off
Batman?
here. That's another one, yes, with the Batman and then with
I get
all,
them just for
all those
nostalgia,
other
because I was sitting in front of the TV watching all the Scooby Doos.
See,
I'm
one of my
going to
best,
be 53, like I said, and I still love Scooby Doo to this day. If they come out with a new animated movie, I will sit down and watch it with a big old
Exactly.
cheesy kid smile on my face.
one of my best friends is a big Scooby Doo fan, loves collecting the comic books. I took my son to one of those traveling shows, if you will. I think it was on ice, but I think it was Scooby Doo on ice. But just a cool experience, and kids nowadays still love Scooby Doo, so it's a pretty big property.
Yeah. That's one of those titles that never seems, the Gold Key books never seem to go down in value.
Yes.
Well, and it's one of those cartoons that's shown longevity, right? Even past the Flintstones, which you thought would have always had longevity, but Scooby Doo has never been out of the mainstream.
That's right.
Never.
Scooby Doo has always been kind of cutting edge on a little more, on the dark side, a little scarier.
And that Mystery Incorporated, that 2 seasons was great that they had on Netflix a while back.
Yeah.
Indeed. Now, did any of y'all read the Scooby Apocalypse that
I did not.
Timotheus did?
But that's up there on price already too.
That is a fascinating run of books. It's an interesting reinterpretation of the Scooby-Doo story, Scooby-Doo characters, but in a much more adultish setting. And it was a fun run. It was a strange run, but it was a lot of fun. And I saw Demetrius at a convention and commented on it. You see? There we go. Right there.
That was great.
Haven't we all seen Cocaine Bear by now? I think.
Yep, I've seen it.
I still got to see that. I got to buy it and just watch it.
That's the distant cousin, right?
It's on one of the streaming services.
Well,
I don't know if
and
it's Prime or Netflix.
Chuck, if you like them skewed a little older and a little more serious, if you never watched the Mystery, it's called Mystery Incorporated. It lasted 2 seasons. It was fantastic.
I have to find that gives me some good viewing this summer. So
Like you will love it. Like it's a lot deeper. There's and it deals with a group of crime solvers before the Scooby Gang and how they interact with the Scooby Gang and what's going on. A great series, highly rewatchable too.
very good. Awesome.
Cool.
Something else to add to my list. So
Right?
Mhm.
Wow, no, those are absolutely fantastic books and a great spec pick. I couldn't agree more with your spec pick. Probably one of my favorites so far.
well, thank you.
Those old cartoons will always be near and dear to my heart because they were my childhood escapism. And even the new generation, even though everything's instantly available to kids, there's always your favorites that you escape into.
Yeah, but the great thing is so much of this stuff is now on DVD and everything that you can. So when my kids were little, I got to re-show them Laugh Olympics.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and they're looking at it going, "What are you doing to us?"
Right.
So no doubt that came up in a therapy session somewhere along the way. But,
Stage left even.
so what's wrong with you? Well, my dad. You see, it's my dad.
He's got
Yeah.
issues.
They're like, yeah, we've already met him. Yeah, he's got 29,000 issues down in the basement. That's what the problem is right there. So
Laugh Olympics was fun.
How many books are in your collection, Chuck?
what'd you say?
How many books are in your collection?
About 29,000, give or take.
And an old favorite of mine too was Speed Buggy.
Ooh, I've got that actually. I've got one of those Charltons actually. So, God,
Oh, thank you, Tina.
thank you.
Gary does bring out the best guests. Chuck was a wonderful guest.
It does, and I have half my co-hosts are good.
Bottom half, right?
Hold on, Matt. Keep holding it up. There you go. Now you can put it up there.
There you go. Right there.
But no, Chuck, that was fabulous. I hope you will consider coming on repeated views. I got to get Matt Woods back on for his second round.
Yeah, I do need to get on here, don't I, Gary?
Yeah, Joe's going to come back on. He's got to get back to New York. He keeps, being a worldly man, he's never actually home in New York. He's always out there in the world about.
Well, he's got such a hectic schedule.
Sunshine in Florida.
He's a mover and a shaker.
He's just out there wrestling gators.
Somebody has to. I mean, let's face it.
They're lounging. He's lounging.
Right? Oh, but Chuck, that was a complete joy, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me on. This was a lot of fun.
We're gonna go around the horn here, see what everybody's got coming up. So, first up, Matt Woods, what's coming up for you, buddy?
Well, we got our Sunday show at 7:30 Eastern, okay, for some of my West Coast friends. But anyhow, I'm exploring this why people collect comic books. And last week had two absolutely wonderful guests, Joe and Mark Andrews and Anachronic Comics runner. And they were talking about why they collect comic books. And I want to keep delving into that because I think for every individual collector, there's a completely new and unique story. But I don't know if anyone's ever put real thought into why do we keep buying these books and why do we keep saving them, storing them? And so I want to keep exploring this idea.
I feel like, Matt, you should call this, a therapy session as well as a segment for your show.
Where's Doug Bratton with his pop culture shock therapy, right?
I just want a virtual couch for us
out of it.
No, and see, and Chuck, this is what I love about doing this show is it's as much about the guests as it is about the books, and because you get an insight into what people love, right? And you get to see them talk about what they're passionate about. And we don't really bring up price because price doesn't matter. It's just about what you like. It's about what you connect to. And that's the whole reason we begin to read anyway.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah. And it's just the journey. The journey is what makes it fun.
Absolutely. I mean, some of the books I revisit all the time are 50-cent books. And I love the stories in them. And I can't stop reading them.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
But, Stephanie, anything coming up for you?
I got nothing coming up really. I get a channel now, and I'm supposed to be putting out content, so I guess I'm going to be doing that. Mm-hmm. And Naman asked me to come on for a Meet the Artist series in June sometime, so hopefully I'll be doing that. And
all right. Any announcements you want to make, or are you keeping everything mum for the moment?
Shh.
All right. A future date.
That's right.
All right, Chuck, what's coming up for you, sir?
Well, I have a video I shot a while back on some Golden Age books I got back from CGC. And so I'm going to get that up. And I didn't show any of them here. So when I get the video up, I can actually display them and talk about them some. I might be showing up on Matt Wood's channel at some point. So he seems to have a few of us appear. And otherwise, I can be found on Instagram and Chuck Hensey, real original name there. And, you can reach out to me there. So
that's all right. Gary's not very original either. I got one of those boring old names too.
Yeah.
Matt's a real stickler of a host. He kept me crying backstage after I was done, with his show. You're all nice and teacher-like and all calm, but really
people don't see the abusive side once the cameras are off.
Hey, sometimes behind the stage scenes are so much fun. And I think I talked about on Sunday in my show, You don't want to put that live, but my gosh, would it be hilarious for some people?
All right.
Some of the chats are great.
I like
All
to keep my
right. Now,
job.
coming up for me this week, we have Bleecker on in the hot seat Thursday. And then next Tuesday, we have Steve Whiting on the 1011.
Ooh.
Oh, very good.
Yep. And then we have K-Pop Junkie next. We have double 1011 episodes next week. We have
Dang.
Steve Whiting and K-Pop Junkie. So Katie will be on Thursday.
Cool.
Very good.
We got some fun stuff coming up and a great episode. And guys, thank you so much. I had a blast. I want to thank everyone that was in attendance in the audience. Really appreciate you guys for showing up. Please check out the links in the description below. Matt and Stephanie, I got to add yours in because you guys were last minute add-on, so I got to put your links in. Check out Chuck's link. And thank you guys so much. Matt and Stephanie, thank you for coming on and co-hosting with me tonight. Always a pleasure.
Thanks for having me, Gary.
You guys rock. Yep.
And Chuck, thank you for coming on, sir. It was a pleasure to actually sit down and get to see some of your books and to see what drives you in collecting. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you. I had a great time. So
Good. Well, we'll have you back. This won't be your only time.
all right.
And guys, until next time, as we like to end these things, keep it casual.